I hate this. I will not teach this class again without having a paid account.
I just recently, I really had to procrastinate because it's, I think, 150 US per year. And I just bought it because I just thought it's just so good and I use it for all of my work. So I just bit the bullet and did it.
Hey, we can do it on Jenny's account now then.
Woohoo, we'll have her start the classes. Usually Ray works me over his whenever he leaves, but I talked to him today even and I forgot to ask him. I was just assuming that he had class at 7. I didn't even think about it. All right, so without further ado, this is what VNote looks like, and this is a piece of video data from my after school program. You can see I have a whole hour of video on here. I have a paid account for 5 hours of video, and I can't see you guys really like raising your hand or anything, so just unmute and ask questions if you need to. These are the labels that I came up with my students based on the piece of literature we read. And then it had actually just knowledge, like prior knowledge or information that they understand in there. And my undergraduates actually thought that we should parse this out some. So we actually took the category of prior knowledge or general knowledge, and we broke it into personal information and school knowledge. And
so labels, codes,
these labels that are here are codes that I've added in. Okay. The nice thing you can do if you're looking at a bunch of video across them is you can save these. You can save the codes as, so that now here. I can save my labels or my codes and I can kick them into the next project so I don't have to type them in every time.
So in this one, it says questions. So when they ask questions, that's a measurable value, the fact they ask questions.
We are labeling every time they ask in any question whatsoever. And then if we feel that the question is a curious question, then we also label that. So a question that is a plain question, and here's an example of the code book and how we're differentiating this. A normal question could be, where do I find more tape? Can I have another piece of tape? A curious question might be, what will happen if I put the wheels on a different type of axle? Or
are you marking it on the tape on a timeline, what time it happened or something?
I'm going to show you. Okay. So on this, if I want to transcribe it, up on the top here, it says transcript. And I'll send you I think the handbook is in there. I'll make sure it's the updated one. I always click on transcript. This is going to loop, which means every time it goes through and I push the little arrow to go ahead, it moves ahead by 2 seconds. So it repeats it, and it gets really annoying if you're not the one transcribing. Just so you know, headphones are a really good thing for this. I'm going to click this then, and that's when a new person starts to talk. So. Okay, so whenever I click that. All right, so what I would be looking at with this, the person that's speaking, it's not tipping this way. I would put in his name. Okay, and then if I'm done with this, okay, I can, hold on, hit a new one. Whenever, well, this is bad because it's not moving forward, but you can see it's putting the transcript on there. So as we're watching the video, I can see this. So what I would do then is I would sit there and listen to this like 17 times, and I would try and see the kid in the green shirt that's leaning in and talking. Let's call him Kyle. And he's, I don't know what he said. I can't hear it tonight. So he says this. And then I might want to say, the motion that he does. Okay, that's what's going on right now. And then I can keep going and I can keep, this is really hard because to make it really work well, I need to drop out the background noise. It's really hard to hear. But I would keep going through this. Every time I have a new student talking. Okay, I can record a little more. Okay. And I would keep doing it like this. This is how you're transcribing. Interviews are way, way easier because you're talking, you don't have all this going on. The cafeteria, the acoustics are terrible. We have to drop out the background noise and we have to slow it down usually.
I would,
go ahead.
Dr. Jen, I just saw that that was color coded before. Was that automatic or did you choose the code? Are you still on interesting or which?
It's only because I clicked onto here.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that's got nothing to do with it's not coding your comments. Okay.
Okay, so now here's the fun part. And there's a reason why it's red and I forget what it is right now, but I think it's because it's on the last one that I'm on. As I'm watching this piece, let's back up a little bit. Let's say we're going to right here. When I'm out of the transcript, I'm not transcribing anymore. I'm out of the transcripts. Hold on, I'm trying to see what the chat is. It can be overwhelming. This coding, like I have to say, one of my undergraduates is amazing at it. 3 of my undergraduates have a really, really difficult time with it. And it is really hard. This is crazy. Like most of the time, even in the classroom, it's not this bad. The acoustics in there make it really bad.
So the transcript is a manual transcript, is it? So you've got to manually do that. The program won't produce or create the transcript.
If you are interviewing someone and it is a very clear speaker, you can have it automatically do your transcription for you. I will say it's kind of like using Dragon Speak on someone else who hasn't trained it. It's a little bit rough and you have to go back in and try and fix it. Rev.com is a fairly cheap place to get it transcribed. They do a pretty good job, even attracting multiple participants. But I'm not recommending that for anything like this that you pay for somebody to do it. But that's, if you do 16 hours of video for your dissertation and you want somebody to transcribe it for you, that's a pretty good place to do it. So to label this then, though, I have to get out of transcription. I can't do transcribing and labeling at the same time. But I'm gonna turn their microphone down on it because it's really loud, sorry. So what I'm gonna do here, I have them working, they're going on, they're talking, they're doing all this stuff. On my keyboard, this is lettered A. And I'm watching what's going on. And I'm gonna put this on like fast because I want you to be able to see how this works. This is also interesting. Maybe they're asking some questions here. Maybe they have some prior knowledge that's pushing B. Statement about something. Back to being interesting again. Back to how, maybe they're asking a few questions. Maybe they finally have a curious question for me. Okay. So what I just did whenever I was watching this is as I'm watching it, I'm using these letters to key in what is happening. And that allows me to code my video, my observations, as I'm watching it. So I'm not actually like having to transcribe the whole thing. You can just code it watching it, and then go back and transcribe the pieces that are interesting to you.
Sorry, how did you do that? I didn't see how.
Ben just asked the same thing. So to do this, I'm not sure how to make it, show me doing it. While the video is playing, the letters that are here are what I use to code it with. So as I am, and I can pull it down to make it, all of them show.
So you're just pressing the letters on your keyboard, A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Yes.
when you hear what you want to hear or whatever it is.
Yes. I'm looking for the,
Okay, I got a real kind of dumb question. Since you're going to transcribe the important stuff anyways, and you have to listen to it once, what you did up above, you did to transcribe it. Why can't you just code it right up above where you typed in, it's not tipping this way, and just transcode it right there?
it won't let you code when you're transcribing at the same time. How I would do it, I would not transcribe first. I would code it first down here with the colors. And then if I am interested in only the interesting pieces, then I go to this section and it jumps me to only the pieces that are labeled interesting.
But why wouldn't you just transcribe only the interesting parts?
That's what I'm saying. I would code the whole video for interesting. And then I would go to this piece. It's going to jump me right to where it was. And I'm going to code that piece. It will play me all the interesting ones all at once. It will play me all the questions jumbled together here. And then I can do all my curious questions, all my prior knowledge, my statements. I can go through each one of those at the same time and look at them. I can also export them out. If I want to have them for something later to look at, I can export each piece out. Export video right on the bottom corner. So to code this then, let me put it back on like slow so you can see what's going on. Let's say that the kids are doing this. And I want to look at how they're collaborating together. And let's just pretend that like G is going to be my collaborating. So he just handed him a piece of tape, and so I marked that G. Handed him another piece of tape. Yeah, they're discussing this, so maybe I'm gonna have another piece right there.
Every time you press it, is it a set time amount, or if you hold it down, does it go longer?
Okay, so right now I have it set that each press is a certain time amount. I can also click on, I can, on a Mac it's Control and then click. I'm not sure if that's left click on a PC, right? Correct, I mean. On the letter, if I put my cursor on the letter G and I do Control and click, it brings these up. And I can set it for a different mode. I can set it to single press where I press to start and press to stop. Or I can just, like right now, global press gives me a set amount of time. And those are settings that it talks about in the like how-to book. Now, I'll be honest, you don't have to use this. This is just what I think is a really good tool for helping you sort through video data if you're using video data. And I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't at least show you how one of these worked and how you can play with this. So for this one, I could set it a single press. And then when I hit the letter G, it's coming up as a set amount every time, and I can't overlap them. With double press,
And it's okay if we just do the highlights like you're doing, like you were saying to do there. Right? In an interview, we might be shoot the shit a little bit, and so we can not transcribe that part necessarily.
Exactly.
Okay.
For this one, I press it for double press. I press the start, and I press the stop, and it only keeps the pieces, not a set amount. So there's different settings that you can use for that. If you want to get rid of them, you can click on it and delete it. And then if you're looking at, let's say you're looking at science knowledge from a classroom, you can only transcribe these pieces because that's going to answer your question. All this other stuff might be really cool, really interesting things, but if it's not answering your research question, it's not imperative for this study. You can add a research question if you think it's really cool. But for me, I mean, try and keep really focused for this piece that you're doing right now, because otherwise you can go like really down a rabbit hole and end up not having time to do anything. For what I was doing here, when it's set on the double press, it's press to start, press to stop. The other ones, single press and global press, there's a set amount that goes with it. And I'd have to look up exactly what those are, but we usually set them on the double press. If I wanted the, let's see, I wanted the interesting pieces. Okay, so I'm on interesting now in this tab. I can click export video and it drops them all out for me. And that would be my,
Are they individual clips, or is it just, you know, a 5-minute video of all the interesting videos combined?
this is going to give me all of them together, but I do think that there's a way to export each little piece as well. I've not done it, but I think that there's a way to do that. So it allows you to do some like video editing with it. And then in this case, if I were doing this, and this was really my study and I'd really coded it the right way, I would go to this piece. I'd look and, you know, you can take a note on it, tell what's going to be going on with it. But I would look at, you know, where's this at? I would take it to there. And then I would do a transcription. And then I'll see what's happening here. It won't let you transcribe up here, but it's showing me the codes that are listed through this whole section. If I can see that these are the ones that have been used.
When you click the notes section, why was the transcription part in the notes?
Because the transcription isn't a note. Like the note might be,
Wouldn't that where you want the transcription?
the transcription is up on top here. It will show up on top of the video as it's being exported. What I would write in here maybe would be something like Hunter and Liam are something like that. Can you see that I'm typing? I'm not sure what shows up. Okay. Like Hunter and Liam are sharing the construction. Yeah. I didn't hear that.
So more of a in the comments area.
I'm sorry, it cut out again.
It's more of a description rather than a transcription.
The transcription I would put up in here, it puts it on top of the video. So whenever you're looking at the video, it'll have that over top of it. So you can turn that off too if you don't want it. The comments also show up in the little box here. You can see like it says Hunter. You can see it starting to be typed in there that there's a comment existing in there. I never thought of it being all linked together, having all three of those pieces together. I know that there's on the side over here, you can also do like taking general notes. If you have two people code it, you can do your inner rate or reliability through it. And there are other pieces that you can add in. I mean, there's all kinds of like bits and pieces that are possible. Get back to this now. You can also, like, if I want you to look at something in specific, you can drop that on there. The only problem is that it doesn't go away. So I think it's, without it being able to go away, it's limited. But if you want to draw somebody's attention to it, it's nice to have that there.
Can our codes be more theme-based?
Yep.
Like, as opposed to a word, be like,
Like a whole sentence.
good weather and something, yeah.
Yeah. I would say that your codes, you'd want to have them fairly short because you don't want to have to apply an entire sentence to it, but you can label it as like SSD, code 123, I don't care. Green highlighter, blue highlighter, whatever. I know people that do it on Post-it notes still. Like they print out all their transcriptions and all of their notes and all of their field notes, and they chop them into pieces, color code them with highlighters, lay them all out over their entire living room, and then stack them up and write their papers that way.
Yeah, that's how I did it before.
Yeah, I know people that use Excel spreadsheets and color code them in there and do it that way. I know whenever I do it, I tend to do it as a transcription, and then I code the transcription and I start pulling the pieces together. And then what this ends up looking at, like, because some people have said, well, I don't know how you're going to put that together in the paper. This is one that we just submitted this summer. This is our Build-A-Bug. It's off of a different workshop with students in class. And what we ended up doing was some case, sorry, I hope you're not getting car sick. We ended up doing some case studies with a mixed methods approach with students who scored low or high on their curiosity or on their creativity scales. We have pictures of what they did, and then we talk about each of the students, describing them what they did, and then how they talk about it. Then what we are doing with this then is we list the transcription. This is what he said specifically. We kind of parsed it out. This is not his entire minute and a half or minute and 7 seconds that he talked. These are the pieces that describe the traits and behaviors of his bug, then pieces that describe the technology use that he had, and then we talk about it a little bit, okay? Then what we ended up doing at the end to look at them across and within each of the cases is talking about how these students all had originality. They came up with, in different pieces. They had positive and negative aspects of technology that they talked about, and then whether they liked the activity or not. So these are 3 themes that we found that were common across, even though the codes that we were using were more, I'm looking to see if we have a code book in here or not. Okay. So we looked at, Jordan and Henderson, that's where we get the transactional analysis. Sorry. So we looked at creativity, realistic versus whimsical design components, feelings related to technology, engagement, and the drawing process that they talked about. So those are the things that we originally coded for. But what we ended up doing then, once we had coded, was looked at what the students actually came up with and what they said. And we looked across all of these and we said, okay, so kind of like the grocery store that we talked about last week where, you had, lettuce, beans, and cucumbers. Those were all produce that went into the perishable piece of our grocery store. So the name of them, produce, grocery store. As we move up, we're getting more and more broad. And the theme is actually going to be a little bit more broad. It's going to go through, it's going to take all your pieces of evidence and look for a piece that unites them, that kind of goes across. So if you were looking at grading a test, and you were looking at student answers, and you had told them to name one cause of the Civil War and provide 3 examples that support this, okay? So if you were to code this, you're looking for the 3 examples that they have, but then what they're using to, one cause of the Civil War, that's like their bigger picture item that they're supporting with these pieces. And that's kind of how you're creating your themes from your codes in your pieces of data that you've collected. Does that make sense? Kind of. I have a chapter I'll drop in that really nicely kind of talks through how this works as well. That might be a little bit more helpful. But it's kind of like if you're looking at the things that you were expecting to see, you have your codes, you have evidence that aligns with each of those codes. Just like you're grading a test, we would say like, this is an example of collaboration. Bing, here's these two students working together on something, okay? So your code says collaboration, you have a piece of evidence that has the students doing this. So what you might see overall, if you take a step back and look at bigger picture, is that the students that were collaborating were sharing ideas, sharing computer screens, and sharing notes, okay? So the collaboration actually is a bigger aspect of the technology and the information than, rather than just sharing the ideas. So maybe that's going to be a finding that you would come up with. I'm just pulling things out of my head here right now. So it's not anything actually research-based that I was talking about. All right, so talk to me.
So we got cues that we can look at, like questions, physically leaning in.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the cooperation. So these are. Is there a list of these that we can look at that we want to use for coding?
I would say that based on what you are looking for, if you're looking only at problem solving, then in your literature review, I'm sure you've looked at an article that talked about problem solving, like the steps to problem solving, or how young students problem solve collaboratively, or any of these kind of things. You can pull your codes from any of those.
All right, I just didn't like them.
Oh.
I didn't agree with them.
Okay, so you can also do it as an anti-code. Like these are what they say, but you have a list of things that you think you're going to see. There's nothing that says you can't have that list of things you think you're going to see. You're not making it up. You're going to have the evidence there that you're proving it with. And every researcher goes into a project with a gut idea, whether you're supposed to be open or not. You have an idea that what you're doing is going to make a difference, or you wouldn't do it in the first place. So even though there's not a hypothesis with qualitative research, you have an idea what you're hoping to see, unless you are wading entirely blind into a situation where you're just collecting data and seeing what's there. And that happens. But for the most part, you have an idea at least what you're going to see and what you're going to be looking for.
That would be ground theory then, right? If we just collect data to see what happens.
Grounded theory, you're coming into it, you still have an idea what is going on. You're starting with no codes, you're looking at what what they're doing, and you're creating codes based on what you're seeing. So it's all emerging data, but then you're, like, let's say today we have 6 codes and they're all about collaboration. So tomorrow's data, I'm going to go back to that and I'm going to see if those codes match up. And I'm going to be constantly comparing it to the data and building it as we go. And it's kind of like, normally we're going to look at it and we're going to have our codes and we're going to look at what's going on and we're going to try to come up with an idea about the whole process from what we started with. With the grounded theory more, you're starting with what you see and you're building this kind of generalized idea of what you have at the end, but you're doing it with a constant comparative method where you're taking it and you're comparing it to what you have, and you're kind of testing it out each day to make sure that it stays, your theory remains true to what you see going on. I'm not going to suggest grounded theory for your first project.
No, it just seems like it's part of the entire cycle anyways, almost. That we're creating a start and then you're still doing like a grounded theory part.
That also ties in, the iterative circles that you're talking about also ties into design-based research and design-based implementation research, and a couple other pieces as well. They have the silical basis to the theory part of it. Like design-based research is looking with every iteration that you're tying it to practice and tying it to theory. So you're building theory and building practice design elements or whatever every cycle. So there's nuances that go with each of them. You're going to work with your advisor and your committee as you move through it to develop the like the methodology that you're going to use, whether it's going to be case study or whether it's just going to be a regular qualitative exploratory research or quantitative research or whatever, they're going to help you develop this as well. This is just kind of giving you an overview of what you're looking at. Get your feet wet. All right, more questions.
In the email you sent tonight, number 4, you said we're going to have 2 individual talks. Are we using the same document as before to schedule that, or is there a different?
I don't have another one to schedule it with you. I don't care when we talk. Like,
so just email you?
Yep, email me and say, I'd like to talk to you in the next day or 2, or text me or whatever.
Okay.
Because you, like, over the 4-week span that you're working on this, we're going to meet on the 16th, touch base, see where everybody's at, answer big questions. And during the other weeks, let's say like you're collecting data and you're like, I've got this, we're good. And then you get to analyzing it and you're like, oh, we are so not good. Then maybe you want to talk to me then and talk to me at the beginning of the week and the end of the week. I don't care. You can talk to me at the beginning and be like, I am cool. We have got this. I understand this. I don't need anything. This is what I'm doing. Say, okay, go on and do it. We talk for 5 minutes. No, it's probably not going to be 5 because I talk a lot. But, we talk for 17 minutes and you're done. Okay. Or it could be, I really don't know what I'm doing. We need to really talk through this. And it's going to be an hour and 30 minutes later. We're going to be done and we'll have it all fleshed out. It's what you guys need. I'm making you talk to me twice because, you're the hand holding onto the balloon and I'm the balloon up here now. And all you have to do is say, tug, tug, I need help and I'll be here and help you. You're not alone for this, but you are alone because everybody's doing their own thing and nobody's doing the same thing. And so, you can talk with other people in that, but it's not the same piece. So talking together as a big group all those weeks doesn't make sense.
Okay. And then also we've gotten a few announcements in Blackboard, but they don't seem to should we be reading those or not really?
So the announcements in Blackboard, I think I have them fixed now. They were sending announcements in Blackboard, like the IRB stuff, I did not mean for you guys to have it sent. Some of the other ones have shown up and I've changed the dates and they showed up anyway. And I don't know what I did whenever I imported them, if I did it wrong or I did my date changes wrong or what. The announcements that came in, I was trying to do them as the emails like Ming sends every week that says this week you're going to be doing this, this, and this. Well, it was week 4 before was it Utah? It said, Ming sends this every week and it's really nice and it kind of situates us. And I was like, I'm doing that. And you're like, no, you're not. It was either you or Robert, one of you two.
I think it was Robert.
Okay. But yeah. So my announcements have been all messed up. I think I have them back on track and I think they're good now for you. So as they come in, I'll send them to your email so that it comes through like a nice email. And you can kind of hopefully see what's going on. But yeah, they've been a garbled mess this semester. So I do apologize. Yeah, Jenny.
I've got a question about the coding and the different themes. I know that we have a limited time period to analyze, and we've got to be really realistic in terms of how much data we analyze. So, and you may not be able to answer this, but what would you recommend in terms of the number of things? I think you had, was it 7 or 8? And that was for a proper full study. Was that right?
It depends. One of my studies has 37 codes, I think we ended up with. And one of them, we stuck to a real simple scheme. I would say based on your questions, it's going to have to be what you need to answer your questions. So one answer is not going to apply. However, I would say that you're probably going to end up with between 5 and 7.
Okay. That's good to know.
5 to 7 codes that you're working with, and then you'll probably get one or two findings or themes from that.
Are you gonna have codes for for documents and stuff too? Do we need to this shows this kind of thing, or?
In a perfect world, the set of codes that you have for your study to look at it pulls across all of your pieces. So
Okay.
if you're looking at positive affect towards OER resources.
Okay.
Thinking
So I
positive.
need them to kind of be broad a little bit.
They
like
can be broad or they can be specific. If they're specific, you're probably going to have to combine them. I have a really good chapter I'm going to send you guys.
Okay.
I'll get it scanned off tonight, and hopefully I'll get it to you either tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on how well that process works with the printer. I may have to take pictures of every page if I can't find it to download. But it walks through that whole process pretty easily. But if you start out with 20 codes, you're probably going to find that a lot of your codes combine into a bigger code. Like if you started off with like organic zucchini, green zucchini, yellow squash, all of these things might combine into like zucchini or squash or something like that. And then you might have them, combine into produce. At the level you're at, to answer your question, you may just need to be at the produce level. You might not have to have really fine-grained detail about like every benefit and everything like that. So it's gonna, I would say, make them a little bit more general for the purposes of this study. If you can. Any more questions? If anybody wants to talk, I'm around the rest of this week. I'm at a conference next week through Wednesday night. So Thursday, Friday next week are great times to hit me up for talk. And then I'm around, pretty much the rest of the summer. And yes, you can tweak it from one to the other. That's kind of what this study here is allowing you to do as well, is kind of tweak your processes and tweak your questions and your coding and all of that. So that when you get to the next step, you have at least an idea how you want to start with it.
Yeah, because with all my coding stuff, I think I might want to change how I program it and have them, what I have them do. So
yeah, if it doesn't work with the first one, then definitely you can have a pilot and then your real study with 2 people.
Okay.
That'll work. Hey, we're just testing out methods. We're just testing out things this time.
Okay.
Do I want you to have really great work? Yeah, you're going to have good work. I have no doubt about it for all of you. Is it going to be perfect? No, it's never perfect. You're going to do what you can. All right, so if any of you need to talk this week, it's fine. If you want, before you start, collecting your data and all of that kind of stuff. If you get into it and decide that you need to talk at any point in time, just text me or email, and I'll do what I can even at the conference if it's next week early. And we're going to get kicked off of here again. I will hop back in if anybody wants to keep talking, but otherwise I'm going to tell you that it's been really great to talk to you guys, and I hope I answered all your questions. And yeah, anything else? Nope.
Thanks.
Thank you.